In the heart of Abuja, where the air hums with the noise of ambition and the smell of roasted corn rises from street corners, lived a young woman named Amara Nwosu. She was 27, a nurse in a private clinic, and the pride of her parents, or so everyone thought. Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a tale. Each morning before the city fully woke, Amara would tie her hair into a neat bun, slip into her clean uniform, and whisper a small prayer. But her prayers were never for herself. They were always for her family back home in the village. Her mother's health, her father's peace of mind, her brother's education. It was as if her own happiness was a currency she could trade for theirs. Every month without fail she sent money home. Sometimes it was for Papa's medicine. Sometimes it was for Mama's market business. And sometimes it was for a reason so vague it barely made sense. Family contribution, land issue, village welfare. No matter the reason, Amara always gave. She was the one they called when school fees were due, when a roof leaked, when a neighbor's cow broke a fence, when a church needed a donation. Her salary never really belonged to her. It was an invisible river that flowed endlessly homeward. Her father, Papa Ifani Nwosu, had once been a respected teacher in the village, a man of words, discipline, and pride. But after retirement, pride became his last remaining possession. He refused to accept that times had changed. He spoke of his glorious days like they were medals pinned to his chest, though most of them existed only in his own stories. Her mother, Mama Ngozi, sold fabrics at the village market but spent more time in gossip than in sales. She had mastered the art of guilt, her words soft like honey, but sharp enough to pierce through Amara's resolve. "My daughter," she would say, "we suffered so much for you. If we didn't sell our wrappers for your school, where would you be now? God will bless obedient children." Those words always carried weight. Not because they were true, but because they sounded holy. When Amara returned home one humid Friday evening for her cousin's wedding, the smell of red earth and smoke greeted her before the people did. Children ran past her with laughter as goats bleated from behind clay fences. The compound looked smaller than she remembered. The paint on the walls faded, the roof patched with different shades of rust. But the air was alive. News had spread that Nurse Amara was coming home. By the time she stepped into the family compound, neighbors had already gathered by the gate, whispering, "That's her. The one who sends money every month." Some smiled with genuine warmth, others with envy disguised as admiration. Mama was the first to rush out, wrapper tied high on her chest, face shining with excitement. "My daughter, the one that God used to wipe my tears," she sang, hugging Amara tightly. Papa followed slowly, walking stick in hand, his voice calm and commanding. "Ah, my nurse, my jewel. Abuja has not stolen your manners, I see." Amara smiled faintly. "Good evening, Papa. Good evening, Mama." Her bag was heavy, filled with gifts and groceries. The moment she entered the sitting room, Mama's eyes darted toward the bag like a hawk spotting prey. They sat her down, asked about her journey, about work, about her brother Obi in Canada. But the warmth in the room felt rehearsed, like a play she had seen many times before. Then Papa cleared his throat, the signal that the real conversation was about to begin. He leaned forward, his voice taking on that familiar blend of authority and persuasion. "Amara, my daughter, there is something important I must discuss with you. A small favor, really." Amara's stomach tightened. Every time he said small favor, it ended with her bank account weeping. "There's a family investment," he continued. "A land cooperative in the village. Good one. We only need 200,000 naira to complete the payment. The man said it will double in value before the year ends." Mama nodded eagerly. "It's not just for your father, oh. It's for all of us. You know God blesses the hands that give. You will not lose, my daughter." Amara looked from one to the other. Their faces were bright with false hope, eyes gleaming with expectation. She wanted to ask questions, wanted to say no, but the guilt was already creeping in. She heard her mother's earlier words echoing in her mind. "If we didn't suffer for you, where would you be now?" So she smiled weakly and said, "All right, Papa. I'll send it on Monday." The relief in the room was instant. Mama clapped her hands together and said, "Ah, my daughter will never bring shame to this family." Papa leaned back with satisfaction. "You see why I say you are a true Nwosu. Others have children that forget them, but ours, God did well for us." But as they celebrated her obedience, Amara's heart sank. The money she had saved for her professional exam abroad would now disappear into yet another family promise that might never yield anything. That night, when the village quieted down and the wedding songs faded into distant drums, Amara lay awake listening to the hum of crickets. The moonlight poured into the room through the thin curtain, bathing her face in a pale glow. She thought of all the things she wanted to do. Rent a better apartment in Abuja, pay for her specialization course, maybe even take a short break to rest. But her dreams always came second. Her family's needs were endless, and she was their fountain that never ran dry. She remembered the day she got her first salary years ago. She had rushed home, excited to show Papa her payslip. He had smiled proudly, then said, "You see, we did not waste our effort. Now you can take care of us." It wasn't a request, it was a declaration. And from that day, her life had become an account book titled Family Expenses. The next morning, Amara walked through the village square, waving at familiar faces. Women hailed her. "Ah, Nurse Amara. God bless you, our pride." Men nodded respectfully. Children followed behind, giggling. But behind the praise were whispers she could almost hear. "She sends them money every month. Her parents are lucky. But she's not yet married. Maybe that's why she has so much time for them." It was always the same, admiration laced with judgment. Even her own father, who bragged about her success in public, never missed a chance to sigh and say, "If only Amara would bring a husband home, my mind would rest." As she returned to the compound, she saw Papa sitting with his friends under the mango tree, gesturing proudly as he spoke. "Do you see my daughter?" he said loudly, pointing at her. "She works in Abuja, earns real money. I told her to handle this land issue for us. A good daughter knows her father's voice." His friends nodded in agreement, clapping him on the back. "You are lucky, Ifani. These children nowadays don't even greet their parents. Yours is different." Papa smiled proudly. But when Amara passed by, their eyes met, and for a second she saw something cold behind his smile. Pride, yes, but also possession. To him, her success was not hers. It was his accomplishment to display, like a trophy he'd polished with her labor. Later that evening, the compound was alive with preparations for the wedding. Drums thumped, pots steamed, and laughter filled the air. But Amara sat alone behind the house, peeling groundnuts slowly, her mind heavy. She could hear Mama's voice from inside, talking to one of the neighbors. "Ah, my daughter is back. She brought plenty things from the city. Those who have obedient children, their hands will not suffer." The neighbor's voice floated in reply, half joking, half jealous. Ngozi, I hope you don't eat all her money, oh." Mama laughed loudly. "Ah, how can a mother eat her child's money? Is it not for the family? We are building together." Amara smiled sadly to herself. She wished it was true, that it was really for the family. But deep down she knew, the more she gave, the more they demanded. She remembered how, 2 months ago, she had told Mama she wanted to save for her nursing license abroad. Her mother had frowned immediately. "Abroad? For what? Do you want to abandon us? Are we not enough?" And that had been the end of the conversation. As night fell, Amara walked out to the veranda. The stars were bright, scattered like tiny holes poked into the black sky. The air smelled of rain and earth. Her father was still awake, reading an old newspaper under the dim bulb. She approached quietly. "Papa, can I ask you something?" He looked up. "What is it, my daughter?" "About the land investment. Are you sure it's safe?" Papa frowned. "You're asking your father if he knows what he's doing. I worked for the government for 25 years. I know a good deal when I see one." Don't worry yourself about things above your head. She nodded silently and turned away. His words stung, not because they were harsh, but because they dismissed her completely. She was good enough to fund his dreams, but never wise enough to question them. That night, as the crickets sang and the rain finally began to fall, Amara sat by the window, watching droplets slide down the glass. Her thoughts drifted to Obi, her younger brother studying in Canada. He had warned her many times. Amara, stop sending them so much money. They'll drain you and still call you ungrateful. But she always replied, they're our parents. What can we do? Now, as the rain whispered against the roof, she wasn't so sure anymore. Her love felt like a chain, polished, beautiful but heavy. Still, when morning came, she packed her things and prepared to leave for Abuja. Mama hugged her tightly at the gate, eyes already calculating. Travel safely, my daughter. And don't forget to send the money early, so we can complete the payment before next week. Papa stood beside her, his hand on Amara's shoulder. You've made me proud. Always remember, you owe your parents your success. Amara smiled faintly. Yes, Papa. Then she climbed into the bus, and as it rolled away, she looked back at the fading image of her parents waving. For a moment, she felt that old warmth. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold realization that love in her family had a price tag. And as the road stretched ahead toward the city lights, she whispered to herself, one day I'll stop paying for their love. But even as she said it, she wasn't sure she truly believed it. Back in Abuja, the city's noise felt sharper than usual. Impatient car horns, street vendors shouting the day's blessings, the low hum of generators filling the air. But inside her small one-room apartment in Kubwa, Amara Nwosu sat quietly, watching the ceiling fan turn with lazy rhythm. The trip home had left her drained. Emotionally, financially, spiritually. Her salary for the month was gone, again. Her savings account had been reduced to what could barely pay her transport to work. The 200,000 Nigerian nairas she had handed over for the so-called family land contribution haunted her every time she checked her phone balance. Yet she didn't complain. She never did. Each morning, she went to the clinic with a tired smile. She worked longer shifts than anyone else, volunteered for extra duties, and covered for nurses who couldn't handle the night ward. To her colleagues, Amara was the dependable one, calm, kind, and endlessly patient. But inside, she was unraveling slowly. She would sometimes stare at the white hospital walls and wonder if her life was meant to be just this: endless giving, endless guilt, and no space for herself. When her patients thanked her, when babies cried into her arms, she felt alive for a moment. But when she returned home to her silent room, the weight of her family's demands always found her again. One Wednesday evening, just as she was preparing to leave the hospital after a 12-hour shift, her phone rang. The caller ID flashed Mama. She smiled weakly and answered, "Good evening, Mama. How are you?" What came next froze her blood. Her mother's voice was trembling, thick with panic. Amara, your father has collapsed. We are in the hospital. The doctor said they need 80,000 naira immediately. Please, my daughter, please. Your father might die. The world seemed to tilt. Amara's heart pounded in her chest. Collapsed. What happened? Which hospital? Mama's voice cracked into sobs. No time, Amara. They said if we don't pay, they won't treat him. Please, my daughter, please. Without hesitation, Amara ran to her locker, grabbed her bag and found a quiet corner. Her hands were shaking as she opened her banking app. She didn't even think. She just transferred the 80,000 Nigerian nairas immediately. Mama, I've sent it, she said, breathless. Please let me know when the doctor starts treatment. God will bless you, my daughter, Mama said between sniffles. You have saved your father's life again. The call ended, leaving Amara trembling in the quiet hospital corridor. That night she didn't sleep. She kept checking her phone, waiting for an update. A doctor's report, a message from her father, anything. But the hours passed in silence. By morning, she couldn't take it anymore. She called her mother back. The line rang and rang before Mama finally answered, her tone now strangely calm. "Ah, Amara, good morning. Your father is fine now, he's resting." Amara exhaled in relief. "Thank God. Which hospital did they take him to?" It was one small clinic near the market. You wouldn't know it." "Okay. Please tell Papa to rest. I'll call later." 2 days later, Amara's phone rang again, but this time it wasn't Mama. It was Uncle Kenneth, her father's younger brother. He rarely called unless something serious was happening. She answered quickly, "Uncle. Good morning. How is Papa now?" There was a short silence on the line before he said, slowly, "Papa. He's fine. In fact, he was at Chief Nweek's bar last night, drinking and bragging about some land deal." Amara froze. Her voice was barely a whisper. What did you say?" Uncle Kenneth continued. "He was even telling people how his daughter sent him money again. I told him it's not right, but you know your father." He laughed and said, "My daughter has money. It's nothing to her." For a long moment, Amara said nothing. She just sat there, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The world around her seemed to fade. The traffic outside, the noise, the distant laughter from children playing near her window. She ended the call quietly. Then she sat on the edge of her bed and stared at her hands. The same hands that had sent that 80,000 Nigerian nairas in panic, thinking she was saving her father's life. Her phone felt heavy beside her. After a long silence, she dialed her mother's number. "Mama," she said, her voice trembling. "Uncle Kenneth called me. He said Papa was drinking last night." "What's going on?" There was a pause. Then Mama's tone shifted, defensive, sharp. "Ah, so your uncle is now reporting us? What is his business? Must you believe everything you hear?" "Mama," Amara said softly, "did Papa collapse or not?" Another pause. Then Mama sighed loudly. "And he didn't collapse. It was just small dizziness. We didn't want to worry you, so we said hospital. It's still the same thing." Amara felt her stomach twist. "Mama, you told me he was dying. You cried on the phone." "Don't raise your voice at me, Amara," Mama snapped. "Do you think I enjoy begging you? Your father needed the money for something important. It's all for the family. You're the only one who can help us." Her voice cracked, but not from guilt, from anger that Amara was questioning her. Amara was shaking now. "Something important. You lied about his health. You made me think he was dying." "Watch your tongue, Amara," Mama shouted. "Is this how you talk to your mother? After all we've done for you?" The call ended abruptly. Amara sat frozen, the echo of her mother's voice still ringing in her ears. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel guilt. She felt something colder, betrayal. That night, Amara couldn't hold it in anymore. She called Obi, her younger brother in Canada. When he picked up, his cheerful tone faded the moment he heard her voice. "Sis, what's wrong? You sound broken." "Obi," she whispered, "did you know about Papa's collapse?" There was silence. Then he sighed. "They did it again, didn't they?" Amara froze. "What do you mean again?" "I've been trying to tell you," Obi said quietly. "They've been doing this for years. Making up emergencies. Last time it was Mama's hospital bills. Before that, Papa said the roof fell in. None of it was true." Amara felt like the air had been knocked out of her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I did, sis. You just didn't want to hear it. You always said, 'They're our parents, they wouldn't lie.' But they do, Amara. They see you as their lifeline. You're the one who always gives." Her voice cracked. "But why? Why would they do that?" "Because they know you'll always say yes." His words cut deep. She wanted to argue, to defend them, but the truth had already settled in her chest like a heavy stone. After they ended the call, Amara sat alone in the dark, tears running down her face. Every childhood memory began to replay, not as moments of love, but as lessons in control. She remembered being 10 years old, standing barefoot on the dusty veranda as her father scolded her. She had refused to share her birthday gift, a small pack of biscuits, with her younger cousins. Papa had looked at her with disappointment and said, "Selfish children never prosper. Do you think we suffered to raise a stingy child?" And she had cried and apologized, handing over the biscuits. That was the first time she learned that saying no was a sin in her family. Since then, her life had been a long apology, for wanting too much, for keeping too little, for existing beyond their needs. The next day at work, Amara was visibly distant. She moved through her rounds like a shadow, her smile mechanical. Even the patients noticed. By evening, Dr. Yusuf, the head physician, called her into his office. He was a kind man in his 50s, with eyes that seemed to see right through people. "Amara," he said gently, "you've been off lately. Is something wrong?" For a moment she wanted to say no, to pretend like always that everything was fine. But the dam broke. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. "It's my family, sir," she whispered. "They keep asking for money. I just found out they lied. They pretended my father was dying. I sent everything I had." Dr. Yusuf leaned back, listening quietly. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "Let me tell you something, Amara. Love without boundaries is slavery dressed as virtue." She looked up, startled. He continued, "I've seen many like you, kind souls who confuse sacrifice with love. You keep pouring yourself out until there's nothing left. But when love demands you destroy yourself to prove it, that's not love anymore. That's control." His words struck her like lightning, not because they were harsh, but because they were true. Amara sat silently, tears sliding down her face. She whispered, "I just wanted to make them proud." Dr. Yusuf gave a small, sad smile. "They already are. But pride is not the same as love, my dear. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who teach us the hardest truth, that we must save ourselves first." That night, Amara walked home slowly. The city lights flickered against the dark sky, and the air smelled faintly of rain again. She thought of her mother's voice, her father's pride, her brother's weary honesty. Something inside her shifted, a quiet, painful awakening. She realized that all her life, she had been trying to buy love with obedience. But real love doesn't come with receipts. When she reached her room, she opened her phone and looked at the long list of money transfers she had made over the years. Each one felt like a piece of herself she'd given away. Then, slowly, she began to delete their contact names, not from her life, but from the list of her debts. She whispered softly into the silence, "I still love them. But I can't keep paying for it." And for the first time in years, Amara slept, not peacefully but honestly. The days that followed Amara's awakening were quiet, too quiet. Abuja moved on as it always did. The clatter of buses, the smell of fried plantain by the roadside, the endless chatter of a city chasing survival. But for Amara, something inside had shifted. Her phone lay untouched on her table, silent for the first time in months. She had stopped answering calls from home. No transfers. No "yes, mama." No "all right, papa." She went to work, came back, and spent her evenings sitting by the window, watching the sun slide behind the city skyline. Sometimes she thought of them, the people who raised her, who had now become strangers wearing familiar faces.